Godzilla has stomped his way back into the movie theater! Okay, so before we get into the review, I want to make a disclaimer about this movie. When I went to go see it in the movie theater, for some reason at the bottom of the screen, half of the subtitles were cut off. And when we complained about it to the movie management, they said, "Oh, we're sorry, there's nothing we can do. It was shipped that way to us." Which I find very, strange. So I don't know if other movie theaters are experiencing this problem. I haven't seen anything about it. But I would really appreciate if somebody in the comments section could just tell me if you've experienced the same thing, if you've had subtitles cut off. And this is also kind of like a disclaimer saying, if you want to go see this movie in theaters, before you go, call the movie theater that you know that's showing it and ask them if they've had any reports of this from the people who've seen it already. Alright, so on to the actual review. This is the first Godzilla film from Japan that's been made in over 10 years. The last one that was made, Final Wars, was a bit of a disappointment just because it seems like they're just throwing as many of his villains into it. It was just kind of like a who's monster film. So this movie kind of goes back to the actual roots, the original roots of the character from way back in the 50s. He's now the epitome of evil again. He is the creation of a nuclear fallout, the destruction of mankind, which actually brings a very more ominous, a little bit more intimidating feel to the movie than what we have seen in many, many years. Now, just because they're going back to the original for tone, don't think that the story is just a photocopy of the original one. No. This one is actually a different way of telling the story for the creature in this one. I mean, instead of just being kind of like this, hidden, dinosaur who gets blasted by radiation and gets mutated and, wakes up and everything like that. No. This actually starts as if he's more of something that's developed over many, many years. 60 years, I believe they say. And he evolves over time to the point that he actually becomes kind of like a gift of evolution in that he can evolve in just a matter of hours, whereas other species takes, generations, thousands of years in order to get to that sort of perfect specimen that can really harness the environment that they have to live in. So, and with that, we actually get to see his evolution on screen. He goes through about 3 phases, I think. Won't go too much into what they look like, no spoilers. But I will just say it's something different and something new. And when they get to about his 3rd stage, I believe it is, the design of him is probably one of the creepiest designs that you'll ever see in any of his movies. Which I believe goes back to the original idea that they had for the monster back in the 50s, which was they wanted him to always look like that he was in pain, that he was horribly scarred from the radiation and everything, painful to move, everything about it, and that's, part of degenerates his hatred and violence when he comes to land and things like that. So I think they really tried to hone the idea that the original creators wanted to get back in the 50s. So let's talk about the music for a minute. The music in this movie was very good. I can't express that enough. When he's going on his rampage to city at one point, the music is just so ominous and really intimidating. If you get to see it in the movie theater, the sound systems just really help elevate the feeling that you're going to get when you're listening to it. And on the plus side of that, they actually included some actual original recordings from the original movie back in the 50s. And, you can actually hear, the hissing from the tape to let you know that it's the actual one from back then and they just didn't re-record it, which I thought was a nice homage to the original films. And they include other homages to some of the classics films too, with the sound effects. The first time he roars is his original roar from the original movie, and then as the movie progresses, his roar actually starts to evolve with him to sound more like his other representations in later movies as well. As well with his atomic breath. When he starts to use his atomic breath, you hear the sound effect from some of the earlier ones, but then when he gets to the point where he really knows how to use it very precisely and it's very honed in, it's got more of that higher sound to it that some of the later movies incorporate in there. So I walked out of the movie theater pleasantly surprised by this film. I felt that, when it comes to a Godzilla movie, so much has already been done with it. How can you tell a different story? How can you make this a different viewing experience for an audience while still maintaining the look and feel that people have grown accustomed to with this movie? And I thought they did a good job of this. There might be a couple of parts that people will feel like the movie slows down a little bit, but the focus always remains on the monster himself and the way that the government is dealing with it, which they try to have more of a real tone to that too. Because the government in the movie is having to deal with what other governments from around the world are telling them that they should do it because it benefits that other country, not necessarily the government of Japan. And also, going into the idea of the realism behind the writing of it, they don't just, when it comes to the humans, they don't just focus on one character. I mean, a lot of people remember, for instance, the Godzilla film that came out in 2014 in America. They focused on one soldier who was like the one hero that went to go take down the monsters in the movie. This movie's not like that at all. This movie follows like a wide array of characters in the movie. And it just doesn't rely on just one person to try to take down Godzilla. It's more of a collective effort, a committee, a group that's trying to work together to bring it down. And it's just not one person that comes up with an idea. They build off of each other, like you would actually have in like a problem-solving situation, throwing ideas out at each other. The frustration, the stress of, we got this amount of time to do it, and people throwing around suggestions and people losing their temper saying, we can't do that, it's not possible. And just the overall emotion that they brought to that and the way they said it was so grounded to the real world. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there could sympathize with something like that, whether it's like, family or at work. So the way that they actually did that could really make it feel like a real world tense situation. Now, going into the camera work for the film, this camera work was actually also different for a good way. A way that you could describe it is they try to give you more of a personal, you're in the room with them kind of feel with this. For instance, if there's somebody standing in front and they're talking back to you, the camera is going to be positioned in between a group of people, and you may be like having to look through somebody's hair, or peeking around between two heads, things like that. So they really try to make it feel like, okay, they throw you into the room with all these people. You're one of the people who's trying to create a plan to stop this monster that's destroying your city. And a lot of head-on shots, like the way I'm looking at you right now. A lot of shots like that too. So they try to give you more of like, you're there, you're looking in on them, and you're just a part of the scene as well. So I'm really glad that this film actually managed to come out here in America, even if it was just in select theaters for a select number of days. Special thanks to Funimation for actually doing this for us. And I would say, if you want to see this movie, I highly recommend to go see it in a movie theater. But I would, just like I said at the beginning, call first to make sure that the subtitles are not cut off. You shouldn't leave disappointed. If you were disappointed by the 2014 Godzilla that was released here in America, this movie should make up for it. And hey, has anybody out there seen it already? What did you think of it too? Leave your comments about that in the comment section as well. And if you enjoyed this review, please like the video and please subscribe so that you can stay in touch with us and be up to date on our newest videos as well. Well, that's all the time we have for this video. I'll be seeing you guys later, and I'll be saving you a movie chair in the next video.